Hey there, watchers. Welcome back. Today we're looking at the very first episode of American Dad, the show that asks us a very important question. What if Family Guy, but the dad works at the CIA and has a pet or a pet? Yeah, that's the premise. Somehow around for decades. So today we're reviewing the 2005 pilot. The episode that introduced the Smith family to the world and also introduced the audience to one of the most greatest sitcom households ever. Let's dive in. We meet Stan Smith, a patriotic, paranoid, about 5 minutes from accusing Coaster of being a terrorist type of guy. He's just a really good and kooky, that type of sitcom dad. Stan is a CIA agent whose entire personality is basically America. If there was Olympic sport for overreacting to national security threats, this guy would have the golden medal. Probably accused the civil mariners of espionage. The pilot aired first in very polarizing, especially Stan and Haley, because the show leaned hard into political jokes, which makes sense. Basically, a family sitcom powered by the culture war. Then there was Steve. Steve is an awkward teen son whose goal is simple: get a girlfriend and talk to the world of strangers. Steve has a crush on a cheerleader named Lisa Silver. She naturally rejects him because Steve has social confidence of a white sock. Of course he does. Stan decides the best way to fix the problem is CIA level manipulation. At first he gives Steve the dog. Unfortunately the dog is 19 years old. That's all I'm seeing. And died immediately. Fantastic stuff. Damn. When it doesn't work, Stan decides the logical next step is to rig the school election. Steve becomes class president. Normal parenting. And here's where the plot actually works pretty well. The premise is insane, but the show exactly knows what kind of character is Stan, and a guy who thinks any problem can be solved with government level corruption. This family is insane. You got a CIA dad, a liberal daughter, an awkward nerdy son, an alien roommate, and a German goldfish, and a chaotic housewife. The perfect recipe. And it feels like it smashed together 5 completely different sitcoms into one perfect blend. But the pilot has problems. Some jokes do feel forced, and when a joke doesn't land, it's not the worst like Elvis and Family Guy with like a shitty, terrible cutaway, but it's still not very good in some aspects of the jokes. The satire can be handed heavy and a little too on the nose, in my opinion. Characters aren't fully developed yet, but that is a symptom of it being the pilot and it's just the first piece of this big arcing story, which is pretty common for animated pilots. But here's the interesting thing. Even though the pilot is rough, it has the layers for the foundation of what the show eventually becomes. Later seasons go more absurd and crazier than a lot of the anime shows. Roger becomes a star, the show evolves into one of the weirdest animated sitcoms ever. So is the American Dad pilot good? It's not perfect, but it's a solid introduction to the characters and the premise, in my opinion, and honestly, it's fascinating to see how much the show changes later, from political satire to cartoon insanity. So that was the pilot episode of American Dad. Next time we can review another pilot episode or another iconic cartoon. Comment below if you have a suggestion. Or maybe you could just accuse the microwave of being a communist. Because if Stan Smith taught us anything, its paranoia is hilarious. Now, time to wrap up.